Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on Out on a Limb with Gabby Allen. Today, I am super excited to bring you Sheryl Ickes, who does Cozy Mysteries also. And Sheryl works at one of my favorite places in Mechanicsburg. Just going to say that. And she's a blast. So I know we're going to have so much fun talking today. I'm so glad that you came to join us. And as you know, if this is not your first one, I only ever really have one prepared question, which would be, Sheryl, what is it that you do and how do you do it?
I write cozy mysteries, and
I love
I
it.
I write from what I know.
Okay.
So I drove truck for a number of years cross country. So my newest book is called Death of a Dispatcher, just in case anybody didn't see it. Right here it is.
I love it.
And then after that, I was decorating cakes for about 20 years. I know it goes from one end to the other occupation wise, but
Seriously, like that's a pretty big
yes.
I love it. That's so awesome. Although it does give you a whole different set of experiences to
Yes,
pull
it does.
into life stuff
Right.
as you're writing. That's
Right.
fun.
So my first book was It Only Takes One Bite. And
Oh,
that and that deals with a cake decorator. So
yes.
yeah, I've got experiences and I pull from life to there's a lot of interesting adventures out there and stories, as you know, that has happened, and it's so easy to
Yes.
incorporate.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I know my friend's dad was a cross country trucker, and I mean some of the things that he would tell us, I was like, wow, oh, okay. We'll never look at a loves quite the same way again, but thank you very much. And because you would have then met a lot of different people. Do you always see that, especially in Pennsylvania, you see a lot of the truckers sleeping like or pulling in at night into our rest stops on
Yes.
the toll roads. So were you doing that kind of cross country, or does anybody ever stop at a hotel and sleep?
Just every now and then we would, because
Okay.
there's no showers in the trucks.
Yeah, there
and
is that.
and yes, you have showers at the truck stops and
Yeah.
everything like that. But every now and then you just want to,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to be stuck, maybe waiting for a load somewhere for a couple of days. Normally you don't have to wait that long, but
Okay.
due to weather or things like that, things can happen. So,
Yeah.
or just, it's like, can we just stop somewhere and, take a chill break here just for
Please.
one night?
Can I
And
eat at a
so,
real restaurant? Do we have to go here again? Do I have to get called my number again to have to go get a shower? Yeah, although when I
yeah,
was younger, my grandparents used to pick me up here and drive me for the summer to California. And
nice.
so we always saw a lot of truckers. That trucks and trains were my thing. And
Yes.
I would sit up front and um I had to tell my, not that he really needed me to tell, but my job was to tell my grandfather whether or not he would be able to pass a car,
Okay.
depending on the markings on the road. And I count trains, and then I would also count trucks. And I was just always really fascinated. I mean, did you decide to get into truck driving because it was something that you wanted to do? Because you keep saying we. So, did you have a partner as you were truck driving, or did you start out by
Okay.
yourself?
Well, what originally is my dad was a
Oh,
mechanic all his life,
okay.
and a truck driver, and he was an owner operator. So while I was going to
Very cool.
college, I asked him to teach me to drive truck. So
Why not?
I learned from my dad. And then
That's
when I
so
got it,
cool.
yes, it was a lot of fun. And then when I got out of college and everything, I took a trip cross country
Okay.
to
Yeah.
visit my aunt out in California. And my dad
Okay.
called me up and said, "Hey, where I'm driving, which was a local company here in Camp Hill," he said,
Yes.
if you're interested, they're still hiring. So when we
Oh,
got back, I did the test, got hired, and then I drove local for a while,
right.
got a little experience under my belt.
Yeah.
But local to me can get a little boring.
No doubt.
I
And
like to
probably
travel.
irritating with all of those little cars that are in front of you and making it impossible for you to make your wide right turn because they can't read the back that says, I make wide right turns. Please be careful.
Yeah, so let me drive up beside you here and, cause an issue.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
but
That
no,
drives me crazy. And I'm not a truck driver. I'm like, you really, I swear, if they roll over you, you totally deserve that. You need to
well,
not be
yeah.
stupid.
I saw something on Facebook the other day I thought was really nice where a trucker took and said, look at the space in front of me.
Yeah.
I need this much space to stop. If you come over into this area and I have to slam my brakes on, I cannot stop on a dime. And the heavier the load, the further it takes to stop. So I also see that as a way that I can take this book, and when I talk, I can explain, hey, don't forget, trucks need longer to stop. In my book, there's a near accident where the truckers are working on a tire, and there was a distracted driver who comes out of their lane or about to come out of their lane a little bit, almost hits truckers, and that happens.
So, I particularly have an issue when I see people cut right back in front of a truck, like they roll around them and cut. I was always taught from my grandfather anyway that you need to be able to see them in your rearview mirror fully before you get over in front of them, and that's the gauge that I have always used.
That's good. That is good. Just like people don't read that sign on the back of the truck. Not only, yes, we need to make wide right turns, but
if I can't see, if you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you.
That's it. That's it exactly.
Yes. So. And it's so weird because people do expect you to stop on a dime. I don't want to make this whole thing about trucking, because I guarantee you I could talk to you for like the next 3 hours about trucking. And so how do we move? Too. Go ahead. What's that?
And I can too. But that's how I ended up meeting my husband, who was a truck driver.
Very cool.
He's mechanically inclined, whereas I'm not as such. So it was cool. We teamed up, and we ended up buying a truck together, and we hooked onto a company out of Jackson, Tennessee. So we drove for them for a while. And as I said, there's lots of experiences that I can put into my books. And even though I'm not driving anymore, my husband still is. Now he's local. He's local, but we have ties to long haul truckers. And so there's lots of things to put in. In fact, when my husband, he had actually stepped out of trucking for a while and decided he preferred it. So he went back to trucking. And one of the adventures that happened shortly after, and it involved something hitting his truck. Now, it didn't really damage his truck too much, but it hit him. That I incorporated right into this book.
Good for you. Good for you. So how do we move from truck driving to cake making?
Well, the company we were driving for out of Jackson, Tennessee, they overextended and ended up going. So before they totally went belly up, we came back to a local company, and they said, hey, my husband is Ken, and they said, why don't tell Sherry not to get another job. We're going to put together a long haul dedicated trip to Ohio, and we want a team operation.
Okay.
So that took a while, and it kept dragging on, and ultimately it didn't come to fruition. So by that time, I said, hey, what are we doing? Well, we were in our office. We didn't want 2 trucks at the time. And believe it or not, I had walked into a craft store. I'm a craft person. I walked into a craft store, and there was this one video that said cake decorating, easy as 1, 2, 3. And picked it up, watched it. And my mom was an art teacher. So I didn't ever make just simple cakes anyways. We always went that little extra bit. So I just took what I saw in that video, and a friend of mine called up and said, hey, there's this lady who's opening a bake shop across the river. Maybe you could get a job there. And I did, and there it went that way.
There you go.
Yes.
How funny. So it's interesting that in your life experience, you tend to adjust to whatever is going on around you really well. And so do you write heroines and heroes who do that too? Or like, is that your growth arc, is taking them from something that they're not good in and then getting them to a place where they are?
Well, you know what? I never thought of it that way. Right now, I have, 3 books in my Slice of Life mystery series, and that's The Cake Decorator.
Right.
So it's more like they've already have those jobs and things are happening.
That's very cool.
And then in the trucker one, I just brought my first one out, The Death of a Dispatcher. And again, everybody's just in their jobs. Now, the one comes off the road and becomes a dispatcher, Granny, and that may evolve more. So I'm not sure. I mean, right now they're currently doing what's they're already trained to do, kind of thing. But one never knows. One never knows, because my one character, Carsenia, she is helping at the bake shop, but she is going to start her own business. It's brought up in the current one I'm writing. So
I got
she's
you.
still going to help out there, but she's going to get her business on the side too going.
Okay, well, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. So then how do we move from cupcakes to books? Did you always want to write, or was it something that you chose to do later on in life?
I could say it was a little bit later that I started, but I've always enjoyed mysteries, and it just seems like Nancy Drew just kicked off a whole bunch of people, didn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There are plenty of us with those yellow books with the boots.
And you kind of got started, and I was reading a mystery book, and I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
And I think I can make it fun and interesting. So I gave it a try, because even in school, in some of the English classes or whatever, I just didn't do, this is the assignment, so many, you got to do this. I took it and tried to extend it or make it a little more fun and interesting. So I could say it was probably something I started when I was younger, but I didn't really delve into until I came off the road, I guess.
Okay. So were you writing while you were cake baking?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very cool. I love that. And I love that you have two different spectrums of jobs.
Yes.
Like, it's not like you did a cake maker and then your next one was like something that was just similar enough to not really break a mold. You like set up two completely different molds, and that's very cool.
Yeah, I actually just jumped from one to the other. Yeah. In fact, someone said, how'd you get into cake decorating? It's like, well, I literally saw a video decorating cakes, easiest 1, 2, 3. And it's like, well, that's interesting. I could do that.
Why not? I'm good at it. I'll do it. And then you did. And that's awesome. I love it. So then when you say that you're going to make them funny, I'm assuming that you're stating that your books have a lot of humor in them.
I think so.
Okay. Don't we all though? I mean, isn't there ever a moment where you're like, that's really funny, and then somebody else reads it and you're like, you didn't laugh, and they're like, where was I supposed to laugh? And I'm like, that sentence right there. And they're like, I mean, it's good. And I'm like, no, want you snorting tea out your nose. That has to be funny. Dang it.
I try to make sure there's good camaraderie among all my characters, and joke and humor is the way to do it. So I think I have that in.
Okay.
And it seems to be that when I hey, let me run this by you kind of thing, and they'll say something. In fact, I had one of my people the beta readers that read my books while I'm trying, for grammar and such, and hopefully not that they can follow it through. Did I miss something or whatever? And the one, he just loved the one comment, and I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Funny.
Thanks for letting me know. We'll do more of that. Yes. And it is, I mean, so you are self-publishing these, is that correct? Okay. So, and I've talked to a couple of other authors that are also self-publishing, and one of the things that they commonly say is you really need someone to read your book before you put it up for sale, because even if you've got the beta readers, I mean, it can be better to hire an editor who's looking for, some more of the stylistic stuff. But even with beta readers, like, I find sometimes I'll write a story, I send it to my critique partner, and they're like, I don't get this part. And I'm like, how can you not get that part? It blah, 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 blah. And they're like, that's not actually in there. I'm like, what? Wait, what? It's not. Show me the page. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's not in there. Well, you're right. That It would make far more sense if I explained why that should be funny before I was like, because you do your brain kind of, and I mean, tell me if this happens to you too. Your brain kind of fills in certain things
Yes.
as you're writing. And so you do think, honestly, that you have put that in there.
Mm.
And without a second or third or fifth set of eyes, you will probably not catch that that's an issue,
Yes.
because you're going to continue to see it there.
Yes, I strongly suggest to people, and I know a number of other people who are self-publishing or just writing the first book and everything. And it's like,
Right.
whatever you do, you got to have someone else read the book.
Yes.
My first one I read over and over and over again. You sit it off to the side, you come back, because you know the old idea, well, you just sit it off to the side and then come back and you'll catch everything. No, as you said, you know in your head what's going to happen, and it doesn't mean it made it in there or that you conveyed it right. So what you see pictured, what's going on in your head isn't quite what you explained out there or described.
Right.
So you're like,
right.
Really? You didn't get that?
How did you not get that? I know I didn't write. I did not. Where'd it go? Yeah. And that's, I mean, I often like, so one of the things that I really struggle with is timeline. So like if it's Tuesday, is Friday 3 days away? And like, if it's Tuesday night, is Friday still 3 days away? And so I do have somebody who kind of looks for that kind of stuff, because this poor woman, one time she was reading through my book and I saw her, we were at a retreat, and I saw her grab a notepad and start writing. And I'm like, what are you doing there? And she's like, go away. And I was like, what? No, I know you're reading my book. What are you doing? And she's like, I'm making a calendar. Okay. I'm going to show you that you have 4 Tuesdays in a row.
Oh, wow.
Like, no, I do not. She's like, yes, this person got up, they ate breakfast, they had lunch at some point, they just went to sleep. It was Tuesday. Then they wake up again and it's still Tuesday. But you're not writing Groundhog's Day, are you? Okay. And I was like, no. And they're like, yeah, okay, just go away. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what you need to change. Just leave me alone for a little. I'm like, I'm gonna have to buy you something after this, aren't I? Like it's gonna be a pretty costly edit, isn't it? She was like, I'll think about it. But you do, if you don't have somebody else to look at it and really, well, in some things, because of, I call them filters. So like what you've gone through in life and how you've handled certain things in life, if you're writing about that kind of stuff, something may make total sense to you as a trucker, and you don't think that you have to explain what that means as a trucker. And then you get somebody who reads it who's not a trucker and is like, I don't get what this means. Like, I can't even infer from the sentence what it is that you're saying, and
yes, that's why I have one page in my trucker book in the beginning shows you a diagram of a truck, of a rig.
That's fun.
So it identifies different parts of it, because not everybody does know. And then I also have I actually define a couple words. Like,
okay, hey, why not? Well, and when different people use different words for different things.
Yes. Well, there is that. And okay, when you're going down the road, go down the highway and there's those tire remnants in the middle of the road. Trucker just flew.
The one that almost flew into the windshield of my car. Yes. Continue.
And a friend of mine growing up, that's what happened to them too. That's why, just as a side note, you never ride beside the tandems on a tractor trailer. Never stay beside them puppies, especially
the tandem. So is that the
it's a tread.
What is it? Okay.
The tread has come off. That thing laying in the highway is called a gator. Okay.
Gator.
So when I'm talking to someone, I said, yeah, we almost hit a gator.
They're like, in Pennsylvania? I thought those were primarily in Florida. Are you
a gator up here? Well, if you read some of those stories, there was that little gator or crocodile in the Susquehanna that they rescued. Someone had put in there.
I'm like, who is doing that? Because you know that poor little thing did not float up here from Florida. Somebody had an alligator or crocodile pet, and they decided that would be That's very
Yeah, and
frustrating
it's
for me.
different environments. Just because it's
Yeah.
water doesn't mean that this is the water they want to be in.
They
But
probably also don't want to be on a glacier, just in
no,
case anyone was wondering. Wow. But yeah, so there you if you were to
yes,
say, when we were on the road, we hit a gator, I would be like, "Oh my gosh, did it live?" And you would be like,
yes,
"Well, it's a black tire. I don't know that it was alive to
it's a
begin."
chunk of tire. It's
Live
like, oh,
rubber? Like, I don't really know. I'm not really sure how to answer that. So,
and that
and that's good.
yeah, and that's why I handed the book off to my beta readers, and I said,
Hmm.
okay, I see it from the trucking world. You're going to see it from the
Hmm.
non-trucking world.
Yeah,
Tell me
what I
what
need to know.
issues.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing was the handles. Truckers have
Yes,
CB handles.
the CVs. Yes.
Okay, just think of it as a nickname, because that
Yeah,
might be Robert. You know him as Robert, but you also know him as Bobby, and someone else knows him as Bob.
right.
Okay, well, that's kind of it. But where our parents named us when we were kids, we get to pick our handles.
Right. So, how do you pick a handle? Is
Um,
it like something that you've been called? Like, people are like, all right, 10-4, Red Robin Rocket. And you're like, oh, who chose that?
yeah. There is no set way to really pick a
Okay.
handle. It's usually a characteristic,
Oh,
or something you like. Because you get to pick it, so
yeah.
you don't get stuck with a name you don't like. Okay, and if
Yes,
you do, then hey,
that's your
wise
own
up
fault.
and yes, change the thing. The one trucker I knew had red hair. He went by Red.
Yes.
We have a friend who still drives truck. He likes trains. His is
Okay.
Silver Streak. And
Ooh,
and
I like that.
my husband, I'll let it up to you to figure it out, but he goes by Instigator. So,
I have a feeling that if I was a trucker, we might have ended up fighting over that one. Look, you can be instigator two. I'm being instigator one. You just
just come up with a way to adjust it a little bit so everybody, you can it. But yeah, so
oh my goodness.
it's just as simple as that. Now,
Okay.
mine, I was Gemini, and
Okay.
I mentioned it in the book. That's how my main character, Becky, she's Gemini. And so the
Okay.
way I explain in the book is the way I got mine, because I'll give one hint. It's
Okay.
not my zodiac sign.
Ooh, okay. So now we have
So
to go read the book to
you
be
got to read the
able to
book.
tell why you're Gemini. Okay. Ooh,
Yes.
look at you being saucy. I love that. Cheryl is saucy. I'm just saying. She is saucy. But I mean, but that kind of stuff is fun. I
Yes.
love reading cozy mysteries to learn things.
Yes.
I am always so there's a line though. So I used to read a lot of women's fiction. And at one time there was this one author, I can't remember who it is right now. But I kid you not, I finished the book and I could have gotten maple syrup out of a tree all by myself. And I was like, I did
Right.
not need 7 pages of exactly how to tap a tree,
Yes.
and so, but I do love learning surface stuff. Like if
Right.
you address kind of how the handles come in, and that something is called a gator, and that might not be how you use that word, but if you
Right.
ever are on the ham radio and you hear somebody say gator, it's probably not the one from Peter Pan.
No.
He doesn't have a watch in his belly. And
Right.
so,
Right.
so I love like learning new things. There was a series and she was I want to say she was a specific kind of lawyer.
Okay.
And it was very interesting because I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way, because there were a couple things that she discussed that like I hadn't considered that. I used to work at a salon, and I read one where the woman worked at a salon, and I was like, we do that too. That's not that's not just you. That's an industry kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
FYI, I mean, and it's two pronged. If you
Yes.
are already in the industry, you get to relive things that maybe you haven't thought of in a while. And if
Right.
you're out of the industry, then you get to learn something that you probably would not just stop a trucker at the truck stop and say, can you please tell me, I keep running over these things on the road and they look like tires. And he's like, yeah, that's a gator. And you're like, it, it's a a gator?
Yeah,
You
but
know?
you
Yeah.
gotta ask, you gotta watch who you ask, because remember, there's all kinds of personalities out
Yes.
there. And
Yes.
I hate to say it, but I have found that a lot of the truckers, their minds are a little bit in the gutter. Okay. So you gotta be careful how you word something,
Right.
because you will have a whole other thing going, discussion going on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. My parents used to have a friend who was a trucker when I was younger, but not super young.
Right.
And I guess I had like come of age, and all of the jokes that I didn't used to get, I was now getting. And my mom's like, no, you're in a different room. You don't need to know what that is, but I want to know what it is. So and I'm like standing at the door going,
Yeah.
oh, I have to tell my friend that one at school. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I would assume you probably spend a lot, if you're not a team, you do spend a lot of your time by yourself
Right.
listening
Right.
to
And,
radio.
and there is a lot if you're driving, even cross country, but
Yeah.
depending on what your runs are and how your runs are delegated, it's fun to, team up with another trucker for a run
Yeah.
or two, if that can be. So and nowadays you would have all this, your cell phones, keep in touch with people. Okay,
Yeah.
back then we didn't really have
Right.
those. I'm dating myself right now, but
That's okay,
there were
because
no cell
you're
phones.
dating me also. I have the same experience. We'll just
When we drove cross country, there were no cell phones.
yeah.
And then somebody said, well, you don't need CB radios anymore because there's all these cell
Oh
phones. It's
yes,
like,
you do.
oh, really? I said, so that truck going that way, you're going to pick up your cell phone and call them. You don't use the CBs yet for that. You might talk more with some of your coworkers on the
Yes.
phone.
Yes.
Of course, without holding the phone and all that
Exactly.
handless way of doing it. But the CB radios come in quite handy in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Uh,
When we were moving from California to Pennsylvania with our 4-year-old, she was in the back of my car and my husband was driving the U-Haul 26 footer. And we ended up getting walkie-talkies because
oh,
there is a stretch of about 200 miles in Arizona where there was no cell phone service. And I had Verizon. I was like, hey, Verizon, get that guy out here who says, can you hear me now? Because I'll tell you, there's a huge stretch here.
yes.
And I don't want to pick up my phone to figure out where your speed dial number is and wait for
Right.
it to ring and wait for you to pick it up and
Right.
say, I have to go to the bathroom, please. Oh, we just
I was gonna say,
past
you just went
the
by it.
exit. Yeah, you just flew by it, and the next one's not for 47 miles. So I'm gonna go cry, and I'll be back. Whereas if you have, for us, we just had the quick walkie-talkie, and I
Yeah.
was like, hey, by the way, like the little baby needs to go potty, we need to get off, and
Right.
quick like that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I do like that. I actually used to, my friends, I told you my parents had the friend that was a trucker. He would let me get on the CB, and I'd be like, hello, and they're like, yeah, we got you. You don't need to yell. And he would say really quick, hey, she's 10. And they're like, oh, hey, how are you?
Yeah, yeah, that was good clarification on his part, because
He was
yeah,
quick. He was quick.
yes, yes,
Sometimes you have to be.
you
Sometimes you
have
have
to
to
be,
be.
especially
Right.
if
Well,
you're not used to it. You say something,
yeah.
you're like, then you can hear them all laughing on the CB radio, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I opened the door on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
deserve
Mel.
it.
I totally set myself completely up for that. So you have 3 of the cakes and you
Uh-huh.
have 1 of the trucks, which
Yes.
I do have that. I haven't read it yet, so I'm like all aflutter to get into this. So are you going to continue cakes
Yes.
and okay,
Yes.
so you're going to do both series at the same time.
Well, I have Crunch of the Nutcracker will be out. It's a short story. Okay, that's going to be out by December. That's
Are you
in,
so as a short story? Do you mean it's
yes.
going to be like an ebook only?
No, no. Well, I haven't checked prices yet.
Okay.
I think if you do an ebook, there should be a hard copy out there also, but that's my opinion.
I agree.
Sure, there's reasons why people only do ebook and not, but in today's world, especially if you're going to self-publish, you should have the hard copy out there. And then I'm one of
Yeah.
those that the ebook has its place, and
Mhm.
regular books, hard copies have their place.
Yes.
and each person has their own choice, but I
Right.
like to turn the page.
I need the
I like
paper.
to feel, yes, the book in my hands,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Mhm. Totally
So
understandable.
I gotta look at the prices and how it
Okay.
all comes down, but I'll have a short story, Crunch of the Nutcracker in the Slice of Life Mysteries, by December. I'm
Okay.
hoping to get out my next full-size story in the Slice of Life, which is called A Piece of My Heart,
I
before
love
then.
it.
And
Oh,
then
okay. Before December.
before December. And then
Oh,
Bear Attack will be the next one in the Trucker series, and
okay.
that'll be out next year because this one just came out this year for Death of a Dispatcher.
Right.
And
Right.
the thing I'm trying on the Death of a Dispatcher, or my trucking series, I should say, is
Hmm.
each book will take place in a different state.
Oh, oh, I
So,
like that.
and
That's very cool.
I only have 2 states yet in our country to see. I've touched all the other ones. So I just told my husband we might have to do some research. That's all.
Right. Well, yeah. So which two have you not been in?
I haven't been in Washington or Alaska. And I
Okay.
can honestly tell you, I'm not going to be driving in Alaska. But
I,
hey, if I get
yeah.
all my books out and that's the only state I don't have covered,
Then
I
you're
will
going.
get there. Yes, I am
Yeah,
going. If nothing
absolutely.
else, my characters will go to visit family or friends
Yeah.
in Alaska, and they'll
Somebody.
have to get in a truck to help do
Yes.
something.
Yes. No, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I only have like 5, I think, that I haven't been to because of, like I said, my grandparents used to pick me up,
Yes.
and so we would take 2 weeks to drive from Pennsylvania to California, which it doesn't take 2 weeks, but it does if you have a 6-year-old with you
Well,
who wants to see everything.
yes.
I,
Yes.
I will say though, one of my most favorite things, and I would love to hear anybody's comment on this down below. My favorite things, there's 2 of them about traveling cross country, is one, there are parts in Texas where it's so flat you can actually see the earth curve. And 2, there is something absolutely magical about being in like Nevada or Arizona or New Mexico and being
Yes.
on a flat road and you actually see the storm in front of you and
Yes.
you
Yes.
drive into it and you're in the middle of it and then you drive out of it and you look back and you're like, it's still sitting there.
Yep.
Can you make a U-turn, because I'd like to go do that again. That does not happen really in
No.
a lot of eastern states.
No.
Or like California. I mean, we lived there for years and I never
Yeah.
felt we
No,
didn't.
that's one of the joys, I think, of the
Yes.
Midwest
Yes.
to further west, because yeah,
Yes.
you can see it. And the other thing is the road you're on is going this way, but you can
Yes.
see way ahead that your road's actually going to be going that way.
Yeah.
And so you can see where your road is going, and you can see the storm coming across and everything
Yes.
like that. So, but
I love it.
always
I
had
hope
fun.
that you bring that kind of stuff to your books. I feel like you do. And so that's a very cool. I've had with Much Ado About Nauticaling, there's so much buzz about this being a career that isn't often a hallmark, not that we want to talk about Hallmark itself, but is not often used. So
Right.
driving a glass bottom boat is not a big thing. Now, I also write the Tally Graver mystery series under Misty Simon, and she
Right.
is connected to a funeral home. Less people were excited about that because I think they thought it was going to be really morbid, which it wasn't really morbid, but
Right.
they're like all aflutter about this is such an interesting job. So I really hope that people will give your books with the truckers a try, because, well, the cake ones too, because I love cake stuff. My aunt
Right.
used to make cakes and she'd be like, you want to help me make a booty? And I was like, you're talking about a right? And she's like, yes, get over here. And so we would put 2 marshmallows down, like straight out, and then you would stand 2 marshmallows up, and then you would get the little icing bag with the star tip on it, and you would just start like dabbing all over to make them look like little blue feety booties for
Yes.
brand new children. And I was like, so really there's 2 marshmallows in there. And she's like, yeah, how else did you think I made them? I'm like, I don't know, that's why I'm in your kitchen. I'm here to here to learn. Dang it. But that kind of like, I love the little asides. I think that's one of my favorite parts of cozy mystery, is that if you get an author that's really deep into what their character is doing, you get little pieces that if you're not, so you get to live vicariously. So, and I think living vicariously through being a trucker is a pretty cool thing.
And well, I travel around, so we're not killing off, half the population in the same town. Okay, as the books are coming out, you know, I don't know if they're going to want us. They're going to see my truck's called the Wolf Pack. It's the nickname to the truck itself. I could just see, oh no, the Wolf Pack's coming. We better, take guard and lock all your doors. But
yeah, well, I joke often about, if Jessica Fletcher ever literally came into town, I would run the other way, because I would be like, somebody's dying and it's not going to be me, or like if you're in a red shirt on Star Trek, just lay down there. You don't even need to do anything. They're coming for you. Just make it easier so that you can be rested before you die, but that is a problem sometimes for cozy mysteries, because if you have 18 of them, how do you explain that there are 18 people dead in like a 1 year period and nobody's saying, do we have a problem? Like, is there something in the water? Is the local doctor giving out a prescription that includes like arsenic? Because that would be death number 19, and we really need to do something about this. So the suspension of disbelief can be hard. So I like that you're doing different states, because then it will be, but they could still like interact with people that they know are on the road with them.
Yes. You got great people out there. You got a lot of stories out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are any other cozies that have a trucking base. And
I love
you just
it.
think, okay, so my next one's going to take place in West Virginia.
Okay.
And they're going to go visit a trucker who got out of business. And but my main characters are Snowy and Becky, or Rufus and Becky, if you want to say, because Rufus is their husband's name. But they're going to go visit their friend in West Virginia. So the next one's going to take place there. You can go and visit, when we were out west, you have the balloon fiesta in Albuquerque. So
the hot air balloons.
To check that out, going to go share family vacation. There's, you could meet up with family on a vacation, because your truck breaks down, because you're owner operators.
Yeah.
So it can be convenient breaking down every now and then, shall we say.
You're like, I think something's rattling towards the back. And he's like, well, you kind of unwrap that chain. Shut it. Something's rattling can we pull over, please? We need to pull over, please.
And then we're going to have to stay down here, in I don't know, the hot springs out west for 3 days while the truck is being fixed.
Yeah.
And just happens to be that's the time when your family came out to visit that area. It's like, oh wow,
such coincidence. See, then you are the shenanigans coordinator.
Oh, I like that.
That's why I wore my shirt today. I figured that you were a shenanigan coordinator, and I just thought that would be appropriate. Oh my word. Well, we are getting close to time now. Wow, that really flew by.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. And I have loved having you on here. And again, for anybody who's listening, it's Sheryl Ickes. And I'm going to put links in the bottom for you so that you can get it out of the description box. I'm going to make the same offer that I've made everybody else. While I appreciate all your emails, you can also leave stuff in the comments, because I get those too. If you have any questions for Sheryl or I, anything, or me, anything that you want to learn about process, anything about writing, different book questions, we would love to see them in the comments. I will make sure that she gets them so that we can get you some answers, because we're all about getting you to learn and hopefully taking that next step in your writing journey.
Yes. And thank you for the opportunity and for inviting me to do this talk. It was fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you. So, and yes, time does fly real fast. If you
didn't, that would be I had Bill, who works in a different capacity that Sheryl does, but he was like, how'd that go so fast? And I'm like, I told you. I don't know why, but I'm like glancing at the clock and I'm like, wow, okay. We're like at 40 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. But yeah, no, this was so much fun. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I really hope that people will go take a chance on your books because they look amazing. And I feel like you probably are a really great storyteller for the way that you tell stories even on here. And I look forward to being whisked away into the truck driver world and see how that works. And the next time I'm totally yelling out Gator if I'm on the freeway. In fact, we have to go to Savannah, Georgia
There
to
you go.
drop my kid off at college. And there's this one stretch of road that's like just littered with, and maybe I'll do like a counting game or something. I'm like one gator,
Well,
two gators, three, four, five,
yeah,
six
there you
gators.
go. And then you might have to decide what size counts as a gator. Okay.
Oh,
Because you know how they can blow apart and everything too. But
right.
and just, in the hotter weather,
Yeah.
you're gonna have more kind of thing. So yeah, it all depends where you travel. When you travel, you'll see
Right.
even more of them. But yeah,
That's
so
crazy. So I'm going to ask you real quick before we get up.
yes.
How does that happen? Does something like, do you run over a nail or something? Like, how do they explode like that when regular car
It
tires
it could be a
don't?
number of things. A lot of
Okay.
it could be if it's hotter out and you have a heavier load, you got to pay
Yes.
more attention.
Okay.
Because all that heat on the tire kind of thing, the
Yeah.
these are like retreads and everything.
Yeah.
So my understanding, and if someone else sees it and understands it differently, feel free to let me know.
Yeah.
But you got the tread coming around the tire, well, it comes off. That heat
Oh.
and everything. But again, one of my tires when I was driving, and I was thankful my dad was trucking behind me that day. And I
Mm.
noticed one of my tires starting to smoke a little bit. And he said, yeah, that is smoking to pull off.
Oh my
We had a
God.
nice big area to pull off. And
Take it.
my dad being a mechanic, he helped me pull
Oh,
the truck
wow.
tire off. He just took the whole thing
Wow.
off. And he goes, here he goes, and we could cool down the other one. Do you have any liquid? Well, I always carried, stuff with me in the truck.
Yeah.
And so he poured down some of the other tires that were also getting a little bit warm.
Wow.
It could be, there's a number of things that come together, but the whole thing is when that tire starts to go,
It's done.
a lot of times it's just, yeah, it's a big noise. It's a big mess,
It
and
is.
you don't want
It
to
is
be
a big
beside
noise.
it.
It's a big no, you do not. It is a big noise. Another big noise, and then I promise I'll let you go, but I'm just having a little too much fun right now. Is those truck runs. What is that called? Where if you're going down a gradient and there's that huge ramp, is there a word for that
Yeah.
besides oh shit? I mean, it could be worse, but like, is there a name for what that is?
Yeah, and now that I'm put on the spot, and it's not your no,
Sorry.
it's how my mind will freeze every now
You
and
know
then.
what? We're going
There
to
are
put it
runaway
in the
ramps.
description. Runaway ramp. I was going to say
There's
we could put it in the
truck
description
ramp.
box too.
Yeah,
They're
but
scary.
yeah,
I
yes, they
mean,
are.
thank goodness for
Thankfully,
them. Yes.
yes.
I'm so very I watched somebody run up one of those one day.
Oh, have you?
Oh
Okay.
my goodness, yes. It was, I want to say it might have been in Colorado. And he just, oh my God, he was laying on, this was years and years and years ago, but he was laying on the horn like, I cannot stop. You have to get out of my way because it's pretty
Yeah.
steep there.
Yes.
And then I looked at my grandfather and I'm like, and he's like, all right, he's going, and just, he's going to be fine. And I was like,
Yeah.
I hope so. Cause I was probably like 7, and he really, I
Yes.
mean, he hit that thing and I'm
Yep.
sitting there like biting my fingers going, oh my gosh, is it going to stop him at the top? Like, is he just going to fly right over to the moon? Because
No, it
kind of
just
looks
sucks
like
them right in.
it does. But those,
Yes.
I mean, whoever came up with that, fantastic job, because
Yes.
that has to be so freaking frightening to not be able to stop yourself.
And I can give you even a story, something like that, and you'll have
Yes.
you have to wait until my Arizona book for that one. Because my husband and I had an experience something like that.
Oh,
And when you're driving team operation and everything,
yeah.
and well, in my case, of course, my husband says, hey, you better be looking for a place to jump.
Oh, oh my gosh.
that's
Wow.
that's kind of interesting. And you look out the
Yeah.
window and you look over and said, It's a ravine. It's a ravine.
Babe,
And
I'm not built for ravine jumping. I'm just saying. I mean, I know you think I'm pretty fantastic. I also think I'm pretty fantastic. Ravine jumping might just be a smidge out of my comfort zone.
well, I say, yeah, I'll give a little bit more of the story real quick.
All right.
Because obviously we made it. We're here.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I looked over at my husband and said, I don't have a really good spot to jump for. And he said, well, see that turn down there? We're not going to make it.
Wow.
It's like, okay.
Oh, you're like, well, okay. I mean, I think
there was no, because of the layout and where it was, there was no runaway ramp that you had to escape to. And I've seen some video, must have been on YouTube or somewhere, where somewhere I saw a truck using one of those.
It's scary.
Yes, but we didn't have that option.
Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. At least if you know one is coming up, you don't necessarily have to take your chances by jumping into the ravine.
Yeah, that wasn't going to be a chance.
Like,
there was
to
none
me,
of those.
I would be like, so do you think I'll bounce? Like, that's I need to know.
Well, I will tell you, there wasn't much bouncing on that one either.
Oh my gosh!
I really don't have much over here.
That's yeah. All right, well, we'll wait for that for the next one.
That's going to be the Arizona book. So the next one's West Virginia. So just gave you a little teaser.
Okay, so all right. Well, I will be patient. Okay, let me rephrase that. I will try to be patient for this. But yes, it's been so much fun. I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking with us. And I would be happy to have you on again whenever you want to come over and, shoot the words with me. I almost said the other word and I was like, you've already sworn once today. I don't think you need to keep doing that. You get used to it and then you forget who you're talking to. So, but yes, anybody who is interested, Sheryl's links will be below so that you can go into the description box and kind of get an idea of where you can find her stuff, how you can find her stuff, and get to know her some more, because it's a lot of fun and I think you're going to love her books. So thank you again for being with us. This is Out on a Limb with Gabby Allen and Sheryl Ickes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.